When you're recording the vocals yourself, how do you like to do it? What are some of your methods and processes to make sure it meets the standard that you want?
I'll let Miss Lago take that away.
I mean, basically, I basically have two mic chains that I use on a consistent basis, I guess. And I just kind of like, I guess, learning in the past couple of years. What I do is I pick up people's tones, and I've learned mic pre's, and I've learned how some have like a brighter sound, some have more warmer sounds. So depending on the vocalist, I'll use like a warmer mic pre, like if the vocal is real thin or it's real, something I can cut through, but I want it to kind of warm up a little. For some vocalists that have like more deeper tones, I like to use a mic pre that has like a more brighter sound so it can come out more. And basically, when it comes to a compressor, I usually use the CL1B or the 1176 Blackface. It just depends, it's just something I use. And when it comes to mics, I kind of play around between three, and those three go between the C800, the U87, or C12. And I just kind of play around with it. A lot of times it's what you have to do to get the right sound. So,
What are a couple preamps that are warm and then some that are bright?
well, the warm one that I truly love is the Neve 1084. I mean, I don't think you can beat the warmth from that sound. And some of the brighter ones would be, which I really wouldn't like to use, but I have used it specifically on certain artists, would be like an Avalon 737 or a Martech MSS10, which is the one that's like my baby. I love that mic pre. That's the one I usually tend to go to more.
So this question for Danja or Marcella, the Pro Tools session we have here, the plugins have been printed to the audio tracks, but do you have some favorite plugins that you like to use?
There's some ones I generally use, like mainly anything in the Waves bundle I use, like the R compressor, anything in the Mic DSP, the E8s. But when it comes to like effects and stuff like that, like I don't really stay with one thing. I'm more of like an experimentalist, like in the studio. Like I try different things. Like I don't just, like I don't stay like, okay, I have to use this, I have to use this, I have to use this. But if I have to use it, I would have to say it'd be the R compressor. I really can't live without it. I really need it. I think it's like when I'm mixing vocals, I think it's just the right amount of compression that I need before, because when I'm mixing, like I'm compressing a little bit in Pro Tools, a little bit on the board, and sometimes a little bit on an outboard gear, and I think the R compressor just does just that well enough compression to where it doesn't overload it or it goes underneath it. So it'd be the R compressor, I think.
All right. So, Danja, you use, or at least have used, Apple Logic 8, which is another DAW program, of course. But how do you balance the use of Logic and Pro Tools? Are there things that you like to use with one more than the other? Or what are your feelings on that?
I right now have been completely reliant on Logic 8. All of my sounds are coming from there. Lately, I have like 13 or 14 analog keyboards that's all over the studio, but I haven't touched them lately because I've been using Logic. So, but I will say this: the analog keyboards have a thicker sound that I like, that I miss. But Logic, it lets me work so fast and so quick. It was one night, maybe a couple of weeks ago, where I just sat down in a session in another room and just did like within an hour and a half, 2 hours, 10 tracks or 10 skeleton tracks. Just go to the next, go to the next. This is all before I go to the MPC. I love the MPC. The MPC is the brain or the center, the core of my sound. It gives me the thickness, the tone, the punch, everything that I need. So I sample everything into the MPC. But what I'm running into is I can do a whole track in Logic so fast that, the time that it takes to sample everything and cut it up and assign it paths and do all of that, it slows me down.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't beat the sound. So I'd rather not compromise my sound. It's not about how much time it's going to take. It's really about how it's going to sound. But I love Logic. uh, I love Logic right now. With Pro Tools, I don't do anything with Pro Tools. I have both of them on my computer. I may, cause I like to have her involved. It's I don't like to do it by myself. I feel like it's a team in the studio, so I want her input and her, what she does. I'm not a mix engineer, so I'm not gonna try to EQ or compress something when I have somebody who's 100 times better than me doing it. So I get to track basically how it sounds, and she don't have to do too much to what I do, but she developed a way to do it. But Pro Tools, I may do a two-track, track it out, and that's it, just to burn a CD or something like that. But other than that, I'm completely in the 4000, and I'm completely in Logic, and everything else, is running through my MPC, and that's it.
So then the workflow is once it gets into the MPC, then Marcella, you record it into Pro Tools tracks for mixing.
Right.
So- okay,
Right.
cool.
I do additional production in Pro Tools with her. So I basically do a skeleton. Like I might have all my drums. That's the only thing I would really do myself, is I'll completely lay my drum track. I might lay the basic sound, like the synth, and We Taking Over. Then I two-track that. I might two-track the drums. I might two-track a kick, some kicks, because I stack kicks. I stack snares, so I might two-track those just to keep the sound. Because I used to do the track, and we used to track out every single sound. So it'd be 3 snares, 3 kicks, a drum loop, 2 or 3 hi-hats, and the blend. Once we get the blending and mixing, it just don't sound the same coming out of the 4000. So we just figured out a way to kind of we have a drum package, kick package, snare package, loop, hi-hats. That way it never loses its mix. And I'll do additional production in Pro Tools with her. I'll go to my analog keyboards, and I usually add in the mix. When we're mixing, when the vocals are on it, when the artist has completely done the record, all the vocals, I will go in and do all the drops, all the funny sounding stuff, and the little tricks and the panning and the stacking the sounds and everything with her in Pro Tools.